Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition, shall we say, of the Blog Talk Radio Show, talking about your Kundalini here, all about your Kundalini, and I'd like to say almost Happy New Year to everyone out there. We have some folks calling in, and we have a few folks here in the chat room, so hello, everybody. And I just have to say that today, well, first of all, let me get this out of the way here. Mary Jean or Alana Seeker Manisha, can you let me know if the sound is coming through into the chat room, because we know that sometimes Blog Talk has a problem with that. So while I see that Manisha is typing, and so also people get logged in and logged out automatically by Blog Talk, and that just means you just have to sign up and, get into it again, because I don't know what kind of a glitch or bugs that they experience at various times, but they do experience it. And just to let everybody know that this does occur. So far I still have Manisha there. I wonder if anybody can write to me by typing that the sound is okay. That I can see that they just bumped Manisha off. Alana Seekers looks like the last one there who can respond. Just as soon not talk to the air to people here. So if you can write in from the chat room whether or not you can hear my voice right now, that would be much appreciated. In the meantime, I'd like to welcome the 347 area code, the 360 area code, and the 952 area code. Hello, everybody. Mary Jean, thank you. Loud and clear. Very good, very good. Well, let's go ahead and begin. I know that in the Western world, the technologically, how do I say this? The people that are depending more on technology than on the natural world. I know that everybody, a lot of people there have just come out of Christmas, and I hope it all went well for you. I know that it can be challenging sometimes if you don't have enough money and you're feeling all of that pressure and that the societal pressure, the familiar pressure, social pressure to buy gifts for people. I hope that went well for you, but if it didn't, I don't want you to hang on to it. I don't want you to hang on to it. This is not something that I feel is the most important thing with regards to your Kundalini awakening situation. The most important thing that you have to give within a Kundalini awakened context is your radiance. So the more radiance that you allow yourself to have, the more radiance that you have to give into the populations. I was working with a student just the other night, and this person is able to walk with the movement of the Shakti, but it requires them to bring themselves into a level of surrender and commitment that allows their ego to be set aside, and the Shakti, of course, comes right on in and fills in those spaces. And I want you who are listening, everybody who's in the chat room and on the telephone and on the computer listening right now, I'd like you to really consider that as a vector for bringing your radiance into your family, your friends, the population. This is the true gift. This is that which refuses the aging process upon your physical being. This is that which gives healing to people who you're merely standing next to. This is that holy combination. When you let the Shakti come through you, when you put your ego aside, you allow for great levels of healing to occur, not only for yourself, but for other people as well. And especially during this time of the year, in Europe and North, South America, Australia, and parts of Asia, Indian continent, it's very important for people to realize that the true gift really is the gift of love. The true gift really is the gift of the loving divine presence that we, as Kundalini awakened people, have to give. It's so amazingly important. So, for instance, when you're standing at that bus stop, or you're in a queue or a line at a store or a petrol station, gas station, the people that you're standing next to are partaking of your radiance. And I was having another conversation with the same student the other day, and how important it is for us to have our equilibrium, to contain our equilibrium, because it does play out into the radiance field. And it's very important for people to be mindful of that as well. And you can have 27 years of Kundalini and you'll still need to be mindful of that. I still need to be mindful of that. It's not as private as you might think. No, you can't see it. Sometimes you can feel it, and sometimes you can see it on another person. Typically the radiance, there are pockets of radiance that will be exposed upon the physical being, but typically the first area of radiance that is coming out from you will be in the eye sockets. You'll see the eyes begin, and the sockets of the eyes begin to take on at first it'll be a very filmy kind of light that will come through. Now I have to back up a little bit, and I have to give you the caveat. This is how I see it. Okay, this is what runs through my physical being. What runs through my physical being, what runs through your physical being may not be the same thing at all. Okay, so we need to definitely have a clarification with that. But typically what I see is the pockets begin to light up. Then I see the mouth area begin to light up and the nostril area begin to light up. Now, granted, most people are wearing clothing, and clothing will have a diminishing capacity as far as viewing the actual flesh of the individual. But the heart area will light up, the nipple area on both sexes will light up, and of course the reproductive areas of an individual will light up. The toes, the fingers, the palms of the hands will begin to light up. The soles of the feet will begin to light up. The knees will begin to light up, and the more fleshy areas begin to light up after that. This is what I see when I'm looking at a person having radiance. And I was just looking at a person having radiance just last night. So it's very important for you to understand the level of power that this gift that you're giving to other people has. And I know it's hard right now, because for many of you listening to this, it's a non-physical event. It's not something that you can really tie your touch, your sight, your smell, your taste, your hearing into. Now, some of you can. Some of you that have the awakened format of the Kundalini, you can tie into it. You can kind of understand what I'm talking about. In many ways, it's a quality of energy that you can feel if you go into it. Like, say, with palms outstretched. I've had a lot of students, they like to walk around meadows and forested areas with their hands outstretched, because they can feel the pulsations of the radiance of that life gives off. Or if you're at a sacred site or some sort of a highly spiritual site, well, in a lot of cases, like certainly in Ireland, some of these megaliths and stone circles, they still have spiritual energy emanating from them, and you can actually open your palms and you can feel that energetic signature come upon your open chakras in the palms of your hand. And a lot of people will kind of measure that. I get some sort of a sound here. I don't know what that is about. Let's see here. I'll try to clean this up a little bit. So yeah, people will measure spiritual radiance that way. With Kundalini radiance, you can also feel it with the palms of your hands, or you can also feel it impacting your face. You'll kind of feel, sometimes it feels like static electricity. And you'll feel it in the soles of your feet, the palms of your hand, the chest area, the mouth, the nose, the eyes, the reproductive areas. You'll feel it there first, and the rest of the body can follow in the tactility of the energy. So this is a great, huge gift. A lot of people right now in the countries or the continents that I just mentioned on this world are in fairly strong levels of depression because they don't feel that they have enough. They don't feel that they have anything to give. They don't feel like they have anything to contribute. And this leads to a level of depression. And what I would like all of the Kundalini people to do is to bring a level of bliss and kindness and acceptance into the radiance field. And well, how do you do that? How do you program your radiance, basically, is what I'm saying. And the one thing that I want you to do, the most important thing, is I just want you to open up to the Kundalini coming into you, coming out from you. Open up and let her fill your radiance field. Let sacred feminine, let sacred male fill your radiance field, and let them attend to the people who walk within that radiance field. Okay, let them, you just focus on taking your ego out of the equation. And once you're able to do that, then maybe you can bring in levels of love, levels of surrender, levels of bliss, levels of happiness, levels of joy, levels of completion, levels of truth and honesty and trust and compassion and sympathy. And you don't have to have a target for these strong gifts of love. You don't have to have, John Smith, waiting there, or Abdullah Muhammad, waiting there, or Susie Jones waiting there. You don't have to have a target for people. You can just begin to feel that way for all humanity, for all plants, for all animals, for all environmental conditions such as water, such as desert, such as earth, air, sky, dirt. You can begin to expand your levels of understanding, expand your levels of radiance, expand your consciousness in such a way that includes all of the various platforms of life, expressions of life, and life supports that this planet has to give. And by doing so, you begin to help others that happen to walk into your radiance field as you're standing into a queue. I mean, all of a sudden they can just notice the clarity of the air and the warmth of the sunshine. They can feel the crispiness of the temperature. They can begin to feel what it's like to feel good about breathing air into your lungs and to be able to walk upright without pain. And if there is pain present, how that pain is suddenly for some reason or other diminished within them because of the energies that are flowing through you, through the radiance field. It's very important for people to understand this. Now, if you have any questions about this, I'd like to encourage anyone and everyone to call in. And the call-in number is 347-934-0026. And once again, that number is 347-934-0026. And I'd like you to feel free to call in and ask any questions. If you're on the chat group, I can see you all right here. So if you have a question about any of this, please feel free to write it out in the chat room, and I'll bring it out on the show and give you an answer over on the show. So once again, as we walk and talk our way through our lives, the radiance is also carried on our words. You'll notice how emotions can really radiate through the spoken voice. So you can say, "Hi, how are ya?" Or you can say, "Hi, how are you?" Now, you can see that the first example was kind of snotty, And the second example was maybe a little less snotty. And I think that's an important quality for people to understand, because how you speak and the tone of voice with which you use when you speak, it really brings out a level of honesty and awareness within you to the other person. They can read into the audiometric signals that your voice is sending. A voice is composed of many, many different sound waves that are totally unique to your being. Your voice box and the sounds that you make are as unique to you as your fingerprint. And what isn't unique to you, however, is the level of discernment that a person has in interpreting specific emotional signals by virtue of your voice. Now, I'm sitting here right now and I'm talking into my computer screen, and Nara, the dinosaur German Shepherd, has come up to me, and just as soon as we started talking about the voice and the kindness in the voice and all this, and what a dog has the ability to do is to project kindness through their eyes, kindness through their face. And she's just looking at me right here, just so full of love and innocence and acceptance and beauty and happiness. And I am blessed to be able to have such a precious creature standing next to me and as part of my life expression. It's, and so as you're talking to other people and as you're radiating the various qualities that I mentioned previously into that individual, you can also radiate it through your voice. You can say words. You can say words, and you can give communication from a vocal level that is very, very loving, that is very, very blissful, that carries levels of Kundalini radiance upon it. This was one of the reasons that the Kundalini asked me to make a CD. It's because at the time I didn't know. I just thought she wanted me to make a CD. But when I was listening to it, putting the CD together, well, wow, I could really feel the Kundalini radiance coming off of those tones and those sounds. And so I want you to put your Kundalini into your voice. When you communicate with other people, I want you to feel the radiance of the Shakti goddess coming through you into their ears and allowing their ears and their Kundalini ability to process grace. I want you to give them that availability. I want you to really begin to let them have what it is that wants to be expressed through you. Very, very important. And Manisha is asking, she says, and if you have an activation and not an awakening, is there still Kundalini radiance? Absolutely. Absolutely. There is radiance within an activated format. You don't have to have a spinal sweep in order for radiance to come off of you and to be amplified by your Kundalini. Yes, after the spinal sweep, it does increase in its intensity, but still in all, when you have an activation, that is a communication between your Kundalini and your physical being and your consciousness. And it's the activation state that the Kundalini will harness for its radiance through you. Matter of fact, that is how you are being guided and evolved into the space where you can have that spinal sweep. In many, many ways, the activation state is even stronger in its tactility upon a person than the awakened state, unless the awakened state, came so fast, after an activation. So I don't want anybody to diminish an activated state. Activation is that's stepping over the threshold. That's going through the door and letting it close behind you. Kundalini activation is extremely important for people to have because it begins the process of guidance. It begins the process of Kundalini communication to you. This is where you see the serpent or the spider or the cat or the wolf or typically the top of the pyramid predator species come to you and begin to invite you into the various levels of grace that that is being opened to you. And so it's very important for people to understand that the activation sequence is tremendously important. Tremendously important. This is where you get bit by the serpent. When you hear the term, I was bit by Shakti. Well, this the activation stage is where that happens. It also happens within the awakening stage, but the first area that it happens is in the activation stage. And in the activation stage, you can also, have plenty of entity contact. And when, the first time you see some discarnate head come through your wall, well, that's a life-changing event. I mean, all of a sudden you're either really, really crazy, or something else has totally stepped on your view of what reality was supposed to be. And that is all contained within the activation sequences. The energetic, feeling the energetics of the body is also something that's very common to the activated state. Feeling the chakras open and close. Feeling the energy, feeling the dynamics of the energetic anatomy. That is all occurring within the activated state. The activated state is a hugely, huge important state of being, and it is fully, it is not less than the awakening or the after the spinal sweep. It is not less than. It is preparatory to. So, for instance, in order for you to drive a car, you kind of have to take lessons. People are not born knowing how to drive a car. And here in California, driving a car can be you kind of have to learn. You have to do it, and they teach it here in the schools, and, they got driver's education, and at the Department of Motor Vehicles, they make you take all these tests, and oh my God, I know people that have failed it 5 times because it's so difficult. The activation state can be seen as the preparatory state to driving the car, whereas after the spinal sweep, you know how to drive the car. You know how to go from point A to point B. Within the activation state, you're learning what a steering wheel is. You're learning what a gas pedal is. You're learning how important the brake pedal can be. You're learning, where the turn signals are, where the wipers are, where the defrost is, where the gas cap is, where, what is a motor? You're learning all about the motor. You're learning all about the transmission. You're learning all about the chassis and the dynamics of the chassis and how that plays with the road. And you're learning about the tires. You're learning about the hydraulic systems and the brakes. You're learning about the air conditioning, the environmental controls. You're learning, so much to learn within the activated state. It's extremely important. Never, ever, ever think that, oh my gosh, I haven't had a spinal sweep. Oh my gosh, therefore I have so much farther. There you go. No. The activated state is one of the most important states that you can be in. It's huge. I do hear this quite a bit, and I'm so glad Manisha brought it up. Thank you, Manisha. You cannot and you must not look at the Kundalini in a competitive way. You can't, I'm gonna ask you not to look at the Kundalini in a competitive way, such as, the whole activation versus the awakening scenario. You have to have one to have the other. And I don't care if you had a microsecond of one, before the other, but you got to have one to have the other. You got to know how to drive the car, before you can get to point A to point B, or you're going to crash. You're going to hurt yourself. Okay? Activation is equally as important as awakening. In many cases, I can't say it's more so because divine blending is beyond words. But to get to the point where you can blend with the divine, now you see, there you go. That's the spot. That's the understanding. And in many ways, it's one long line. If we could bring it into linear aspects, A plus B equals C, right? So, but if you don't have A, then you have plus B equals C, and there's nothing there. You have to have A, you have to have plus, you have to have B, and then you're going to equal C. So A plus B equals C. I'm getting some other sound here. Not quite sure where that's coming from. Let me just go over here and see if I can get off of some of these windows here. You got all kinds of consulate windows. Managing licenses. Anyway, so it's very important for people to understand how amazingly essential the activation state is. And it can last for years and years and years. Mine lasted for many years. Many years. I was in the activated state. The more you resist the Kundalini in the activated state, the longer the activated state is going to last. The more that you respond to the ego within the activated state, i.e., you're more supportive of the ego, you're more supportive about having control over your life, you're more, you're really into being dominant, you're really into never surrendering, you're really into competition, you're really into controlling how you look, how you act, how you are, how you dress, how you clean yourself, what you eat, what you don't eat, when you do your practice, when you don't do your practice. Basically, when you live your life in society, and depending on how invested into society you are, will determine how long your activation phase has to be. We are all born with different levels of Kundalini preparatory activities. And this is also covered by karma. And so as you have your karma in a very special way, and you take this body on this world, and you're given into this world in a very specific form, a very specific format. Some of you, will have parents that are teachers, and they're very much into the hardcore. You gotta study, you gotta do your homework, and when they're raising you as a child, it says, "Oh, honey, look at how expanded their mind is getting. Oh, look at him study that leaf. Oh my God, he's gonna be such a genius." Going on and on and on. Or I'd say you're born into a family that is highly, highly religious, and let's say that your dad is the minister of the church, and so everybody looks up to your father, and you're expected to be absolutely perfect little people, within the rules of that religion, and so you're born into that, and you can be born into any kind of a strong spiritual belief system, and this will be part of the activation sequence for you, because it is an eventuality that the Kundalini activation will come to you, because your karma is calling it to you. You looked at it. When you looked at taking the body that you currently have, when you looked at taking that, and you looked at all the patterns of probabilities that were spread out before you, and karmically, you saw what karmically resonated with with the strongest possible probabilities. Well, then you took that body, and karma fulfilled its responsibilities with you, and brought you into a family scenario that was representative of specific karmic opportunities, karmic of redemption. Karma is always about redemption, and whether that's a positive redemption or a negative redemption, that's depending on what it is that your life is representing in a karmic nature at this time. I know I'm getting really technical here, and I apologize, but just kind of go with me. And if you're listening on your computer and you're listening, you're one of the people going into the archives, back it up and listen to my words again, because this is a stream. I'm streaming the Kundalini with this. So as you're being born into that family, and you're being born within those patterns of probability that represent karmic opportunities of redemption, this is also feeding into a Kundalini continuum for the individual. So you may not have ever heard the word Kundalini. You may not have been inside of a family that's practicing Kundalini yoga, or you may not have been born on the Indian subcontinent where Kundalini is a fairly common term, and you can go to these temples, you can talk to Shakti, talk to Shiva, all this stuff. You may have been born like me, in Walnut Creek, California, and to a parent that was going to, have a very challenging time raising her 4 kids, and have 3 or 4 jobs just to put food on the table and pay rent, and to be married 4 or 5 times, and to really, really, really struggle hard with a lot of different life tests, and you may be born inside of that family. You may be born inside of a very wealthy family where all of those things have been taken care of. You may, there's a huge spectrum of life circumstance that a person can be born into in order to achieve karmic redemption. But it's all going to lead to that activation of the Kundalini. Not the awakening, but the activation towards the awakening. So karmically, the Kundalini activated state is supremely important. That is the targeted area from a divine standpoint. This is where all the little brooks and the little streams and the rivers, they're all leading to that ocean of the Kundalini activation, and it may take years and years and years. You may be in your 80s before you begin the activation sequence, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. It matters that you do it, that you respond to it. Okay. The activation stage is exceptionally important for those of you that have, shall we say, a very, very, very strong potential for Kundalini expression beyond what maybe your Kundalini brothers and sisters may have. You'll probably stay into the activated state longer than a person that doesn't have that specific agenda that the Shakti has coming through you. For some of you, as you go through your activated state, levels of energy are building up behind you. I was speaking to Brooke Robertson about this the other day. It's just like, I can see a huge reservoir of energy building up into this. You just look at the immensity of the energy that will flow once certain areas are refined, and wow, it's just going to blow you away. And for her, I'm going to bring her on board right now. Hello, Brooke.
Hi. Can you hear me?
How does it feel? Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. 4x4. Roger that.
Copy. Copy that.
So how do you feel? How does it feel to have all that energy storing up behind you?
Oh, it feels great. It feels wonderful. It's building. It's building. I love it. It's challenging. This topic is very sketchy too, because it just goes into I think it's ground that needs to be covered. But the activation stage is so important because it's such a time for preparation and refinement and purification, and a lot of ground has to be covered. And I know this is true with my situation. The Kundalini is requiring that I cover a lot of ground and a lot of territory in a short amount of time. It feels like, anyway. And I can't imagine if I didn't have this time period that I'm in right now. I can't imagine not having it. So, I just feel like it's very important, this phase that I'm in right now.
It's huge, and it's interesting.
It's very challenging. It's not easy at all. Let's put it that way, for sure. But it is a blessing.
Well, and the nice part of it is you get to experience the Shakti consciousness. You get to experience kind of the results of an awakening without being in an awakening. You get to experience it coming from the Shakti to you rather than you doing that ultimate blend with the spinal sweep. You get little tastes of it, which I feel drives a person further and further and further into the activation. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I think there are little tastes of what could be and what is to come, and the Kundalini is allowing the person to build on those experiences or that phenomena to keep the person engaged, because the work can be so hard, and it can be so, you don't have a lot of reference points for this type of work. You just have to go on the compelling that's being given, and that can be very hard and challenging. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of fear that can come up. You can just get exhausted as well, So, yeah, these little things that happen, these touch-ins, this streaming that I experience from time to time, all of this helps me continue on and to continue as honestly as I can in the work.
How does the Shakti come at you with regards to the activation sequence? I mean, how is she molding your ego this way or that? How is she committing the work upon you, this difficult work?
How is she molding my ego?
Yeah.
I don't really know if I understand what you mean.
How is
like,
she changing? Yeah, how is she changing the expression of your ego to suit a more Kundalini awakened purpose?
I mean, many ways. She's requiring full surrender. And, I think what comes to mind right now is just this movement that I've been doing, this streaming of this movement, this practice of very specific surrendered movements that are slow, and it's almost like an offering devotion. And in that, my personality is being changed. I can feel certain she's changing some of the psychology, some of the personality, with just me giving this practice. So I feel certain practices that you're downloaded or you're given to do, you're compelled to do, she's come in and change in those ways, and you utilize it in those ways. And that's one example.
Can you describe the Kundalini streaming movement again to people and who may not understand what you're talking about?
People aren't going to probably understand it. I'm writing about it right now. I think it's actually hard for me to articulate. So I mean, I don't know if I can do any better than I did, but basically
Go ahead.
Basically, I'm being given to I don't know how to explain this without it sounding really, really, really strange. But Kundalini is strange, so, like I said, we don't have any reference points for this stuff. Basically, the movement is being given. I'm being compelled to move in certain ways that allow for the ego to step out of the way so that Shakti can come in and embody the movement. And in this, it's a devotional, graceful action that I am doing, but it isn't normal personality of Brooke or the one that I've known. It's very different. So I feel like it's being shaped and repatterned the way she wants it to be shaped and repatterned. Is that any better?
Manisha asks, she says, Brooke, are you being danced? She says, like
I'm
you're
being danced.
Is that
yes,
what?
That's a beautiful way to put it. Yes, that's a beautiful way to put it. Although dance does come into it, but this isn't exactly dance.
She says, and is it like a prayer as you're being danced?
It is a prayer and a devotion as you're being danced. Yes, but so the object of it is not necessarily to dance. It's to begin to incorporate her into your daily function. So it's different than dancing, but dancing is a part of it. And the movements also they're rhythmic, so it is sort of a dance. And I had no idea I would even bring this up because it's kind of a strange thing to be talking about. But maybe Manisha can relate.
Manisha says, "Yay!"
Yay! Very cool.
So and there's when I view you doing this, Brooke, and there's a very strong regality, a very regal, royal energy that comes from the person who is being danced. there's and the movements are very specific and yet very refined. I mean, you don't want, you can just be in a seated position and then stand up, and you can see the Shakti moving the body rather than the individual moving the body. You can see it, and you can see and feel the Shakti will literally begin to fill up the room as this person is.
It's a wonderful way to allow for the Shakti to come in and embody. It is a wonderful way to learn how to do it, to release the ego, let the ego step out of the way. I mean, I'm just discovering this and practicing this right now. So it's kind of exciting for me, but it definitely entails, it's not a trying, it's a releasing into it.
And Manisha says, she says, this has happened to me. It is like stepping aside and giving room.
Yes.
Did you agree?
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. Yes. Just letting her inhabit her. This is the body that she's given me. It's hers. So we let her in. And the personality that Brooke has had for all these years isn't that. So it's very different. It's been programmed. It's molded out of various aspects of society. And to begin to just move in these directions and give myself to her in these ways and let her come in and actually feel it is astounding. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It really is. And I can feel it's the truth of who I am in a sense. And it's a remembering of who I am in a sense. It's beautiful. It is.
Nicely put. Look. And so what do you feel when the Shakti is moving your body and you know you're moving around the apartment, and what feelings does the person have? How does this feel to let the Shakti dominate your body? And we're just to be clear, everybody, we're not talking about channeling. We're not talking about channeling. We're not talking about mediumship. We're not talking about any of this. We're talking about that which is already within you, taking you over, not something that's coming from the outside of you. Go ahead, Brooke. How does it feel?
It feels beautiful. It feels wonderful. There is not a lot of ego, mental mind chatter going on. In fact, there's none of that happening. You're not anticipating what's happening next. You're not looking back at what's happening before that. You're inside of the moment, and you are waiting for your next movement. You're waiting for your next command from Mother God. And so it's that really that simple. You're in a posture of reception and a posture of surrender that allows for this reception to occur. For me, I'm not having a whole lot go on in my mind. But emotionally and, it feels it feels so right. It feels so, when you look at it, if somebody were to look at me doing it, they would think, this woman has, lost her mind. But when you allow yourself and give yourself permission to do this, do something like for me, I began to feel how right it feels so right. It's almost like a relief. It's like you want to do this. You really do. You give yourself permission to do it.
No, it's a beautiful, beautiful description, Brooke, and very, very true. I mean, you are literally waiting for the next command, and when you're waiting, so let's just say the Shakti is streaming through you, streaming through your body, commanding you to do a certain movement. So she says, get up out of the chair and stand. And so you get up out of the chair and you stand. You don't shuffle your feet. You don't, move your weight from one foot to the other. You're not impatiently waiting. You're not, wondering, where the next, cup of ice cream is coming from. You're not wondering what your kids are doing. You're not wondering what your pet is doing. Do you need to feed them? You're not wondering about anything. You're in a complete level of neutrality that is just waiting for the next command. You're like a robot. You're sitting, you're in your body, you're standing, and she's streaming through you, and you're waiting for her next command of you. Is that how it feels for you, Brooke?
Yeah, it's very respectful. It's very reverent. It's very, it's very disciplined and graceful, and you're offering those finer sacred qualities of yourself in your simple movement and your respect for being there, for even being able to be there and breathing. That's the level of respect that is there. And you begin to generate through that respect and that sacredness a certain level of connection to her. And she will come, she can embody in those ways. I think you use as little amount of energy as possible. You are still and graceful in the movement. There's not a lot of participatory type of action surrounding your movement. They're very, with as little amount of effort and energy as possible. There's a certain grace that comes into that gives her almost like a landing pad to be in. Yeah.
Do you how would you bring this into the public environment?
I thought about that because I think it's going to be something that could be very helpful to people. I think the way I would start bringing it is to just allow people to give them their selves permission to even play around with this idea. Because where I come from, it's like, mumbo jumbo stuff. But this is something from a feminine aspect, the divine feminine. It's very, very natural. Others it might be more common. But I would start giving people the permission and to tell them to give themselves the permission, and then maybe do exercises alone in your house of these movements, standing, waiting in a devotional sense, and then moving to maybe your kitchen in the same way, and practice these types of just this basic movement and see what blossoms out of that for people.
Now, do you feel that does this come from within you, or do you feel it coming, say, from outside of you? How does this manifest itself within you?
Which part?
The actual presence of the Shakti goddess. How does this manifest itself within you? How do you know this is not an entity?
For me, the download of the practice came, so that's from her. The whole idea to do it, and then the infill that she gave, that it was so evident for me that she was there. But for me, I have certain things that happen to my tone and the top of my head and the fontanelle that occur. I don't know how it would be for someone else, to be honest.
No. You can only describe how it is for you.
Yeah. So I don't know how it would be for anyone else, but how they would discern whether it was an entity or not. But I know for myself, it happens with the cone and the activation. There's some energy hookup that happens to my head, and I can't move it right or left, specific to me. So that's how I know she's sort of plugging in.
Okay, all right. Now, how has this practice changed you in regards to your Kundalini equation? What is this doing to you?
This is enhancing my surrender. That's exactly what it's doing, and I think that's what the Kundalini wants, and that's probably a big part of this practice, why one would do it. It is all about surrender, and when you're walking around your apartment this way, you are in full surrender. Well, as full as you can be in those moments, and then that only develops because there are levels and levels and levels of surrender that I think we haven't even touched on. And so this is a good actual physical practice to enhance my surrender. So I know that's one thing that's occurring.
Manisha,
and that is essential to me right now.
Manisha writes, she writes, priestesses have moved like this through all the ages.
Yeah. Yeah, and the words that have been coming to me as I've been shown this practice is temple work. And it is very much like that. And, for me, I had to get over the whole new agey thing that surrounds all of that because but it is this is real. This is true. This is happening to a lot of us. And Nisha, with her words, obviously, and, she can relate to what I'm saying. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Good. And Manisha's typing yes. There you have it. Now, does this affect the health of the body at all? Do you feel like anything? I'm sorry?
Anytime she comes in my experience, and begins to embody a bit, I guess that's the word I'm going to use, there's that radiance that I can see. And so that I'm sure does something to the health of the body. I know it does something to the way a person looks. It changes the way I look.
How does it change your look? What happens to your look?
It literally lights the skin up. And I think there's scientific evidence, which I'm not going there because I don't know, but it's a luminous type of radiance coming off of the skin that you can see. I see it in Elizabeth. I saw it several times in Elizabeth. I see it in many people. But I remember one time when we were in Peru, Elizabeth, it was just like I could not stop staring at Elizabeth. It was so gorgeous. It was just falling out of her, oozing out of her. It was just gorgeous. But it's that radiance. That's one thing I know has an impact on the health of the body.
What physiological changes have you experienced with regards to doing this type of streaming?
I don't know. I don't know. Can you think of any that I'm not thinking of?
Being tired.
Yeah. Well, it's for me. It's like plugging up to a circuit that I'm not used to handling. So it will make me very, very tired, and I need breaks. And I'm often sleeping or resting with this work. I'm tired all the time.
And it's interesting.
Which is normal with this work because that's hard for some.
With the patterns of probability that have been arranged by you and your karma before you took the body that you have, there was an arrangement that allowed you to be sequestered in a very specific place with very specific kinds of teachings that gave you the time to do this in a very, very direct and a very profound way. Would you agree?
Yes, and I would agree 100%, and that's I don't think that's uncommon for people that need this, specific work or having these certain openings with the Kundalini. Yeah.
Well, I think it is fairly. I think it is fairly uncommon within the Kundalini populations. I think that to have that time, away from children, say, to have the time away from society, or at least to be, sequestered away from direct societal input, differently than, say, other people would have that time. I think she's put you in a very, very specific position at a very specific time in your life to do this very, very specific work, and probably to bring a greater knowledge of that work out into the world. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I'm here doing the best I can with it.
And I have to ask you. Go ahead.
The sequestering and the all of that, and it's been. I've questioned it myself because it's kind of been a bit odd for me, and but I think the more I'm okay with it and I'm understanding it and receiving why it's been like that, the better I'm doing with that part of it. I mean, that's been challenging for me, but
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I just want people to understand that the Kundalini can basically orchestrate your life in such a way that she will take you right out of society. She'll take you right out of social responsibility. She'll put you in a position of enforced, in a way, enforced surrender through sequestration, or being, taken out of, being put into a small box that doesn't allow a lot of societal contact. And she will give you a very, very, very long, strong, specific level of teachings to bring you into this Kundalini awakening. What do you think, Brooke?
Exactly. I agree 100%. Yes. Yep.
And
that's part of the activation phase. For me, anyway.
That's exactly right. That is part of the activation stage. So never let anybody diminish your activation stage, ladies and gentlemen. It's crucial.
Yeah,
it's crucial
that's
for the person. Yeah. You've got to work through the ego things, and How have you been able to work through, say, ego blockages? What's been happening with you in that area?
It's challenging. There's a lot of ego blockages here. So, get into them. I don't know. I think one of the best ways to work through that is to just practice surrender over anything else. And analyzing, trying to sort it out and all that. It's just about surrender. That's the easiest way to move through these blockages.
Have you experienced any kinds of specific blockage that your Kundalini would have you target specifically?
Well, you must have something in mind. I don't know exactly what you're asking. You're trying to ask something you're not actually asking.
Hang on a second now, Brooke. Hang on. I'm gonna go to a caller here. Just a second. Putting you in the blue.
Okay.
Hello, caller. How may I help you? You are live on the show. Hello, caller. 336-448-9311. Talking with you. Hello. Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello, how you doing?
Hi, who is this?
I'm Arsenio from North Carolina.
Hi, Arsenio. Do you have a question or a comment you'd like to make?
Actually, I'm really not sure. I don't have a question. I was just doing some research on the live airings, and Kundalini struck some interest in me. I don't know much about it. I think I've heard that word before, but I know it's more related to spiritual consciousness. So I did want to,
It's related to what?
Get some knowledge.
What's it related to?
Like spiritual consciousness.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, would you like to just listen to the program?
Absolutely.
All right, put you in the listening mode, and thank you for calling in.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. I don't have Centaura, ladies and gentlemen, here right now, and Centaura was not able to make it to the program, and so I have to do all this myself. And now we have Brooke back on the line here. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, back on.
Hey, thank you for your patience. How has this changed the way you relate from an ego perspective to your social environment that you when you're going shopping, if you go to a mall, you go to a store, you go to a farm, or, how has the Kundalini changed you by having you in such a very, very strongly focused teaching?
I don't know. I don't do much of that. I do the essentials, and then I'm sort of back in doing the work that I need to do with the Kundalini. So it's not very expansive at this point.
Okay. All right, my dear. Have you been able to collect some questions?
You know, I didn't see any.
Okay.
I looked on. We only had a few minutes to do that right before the show, so there weren't any on that I saw in the main group that I could find. So, and then I looked on the other group, didn't see anything either.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring our dear friend Elizabeth on, and I'm going to put you in the blue. Thank you for all of your answers and your information for many people. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, Chrism. Bye, guys.
Okay, and Brooke is in the blue right now, but she can't go away because I'm going to be asking her some more questions. And right now, though, I would like to introduce Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Chrism. Hi, Brooke. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm recharging after spreading my radiance at work all day.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah, it was a busy day, wow. And like you were saying earlier in the beginning topic, you just go where you're needed and where your radiance is used, and then after a period of time, you just need to rest and recharge.
This is true. This is absolutely true. But you do get to a point where the recharging time becomes shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yes.
As I said before, that with Kundalini, when you're doing say with Brooke, and she's streaming the Kundalini into movement and things of that nature. Yeah. When you do get into those levels, pretty soon the recharge is almost a continuous aspect, and you never run out of energy.
Right.
You never.
Well, in regards to the movement, and I think the only time where it's draining to me is when it's large groups of people and there's just only so much, I don't know. There's so much coming out and so many people today. It was just a busy day, and there was like at least 100, if not more people in there. And so maybe it's just all of their energy too or something, that when I get out of that, then it takes me, just a few minutes. But even just sitting for a half an hour listening to you and Brooke talk, of course, because of the Shakti also coming from your voices, but it just that alone recharged me. It made me feel better, and it was so interesting too. I wanted to ask a question about what you and Brooke were talking about with the spontaneous movement, and I know she's been getting it in relation to like healing also, but what's the difference between the spontaneous movement and a physical kriya? Is it still considered a kriya when it's spontaneous movement? I mean, isn't a kriya also spontaneous movement? I guess I'm trying to ask.
The kriya is indeed a spontaneous movement. These movements that Brooke and I are talking about are not spontaneous in the sense of a kriya. These are intentional levels of surrender, which is opening a door through the ego blockage. For the Shakti, on a conscious level, you're consciously opening yourself and surrendering yourself to the Kundalini in a very conscious way, whereas a kriya is very much an unconscious type of thing. You don't get a choice. Okay. You don't get a choice. So I'm going to bring Brooke back on here and see if.
Okay.
Do you agree with that, Brooke?
Yeah. You made yourself perfectly clear. Like I wouldn't know how to add anything to that. that was what I would have said. Yeah.
Okay.
And Manisha.
I mean, does that make sense, Elizabeth?
Yeah, Manisha says it's not a Kriya for her either. She says I hardly have any Kriyas. So yeah.
Well, that's what I wondered, because I don't have a lot, if any, physical Kriyas or anything anymore. But I was lately during our healing sessions, I've been getting given to do these mantra type hand gestures, and that where it's just, but you are conscious. So those would not be Kriyas.
Well, no, those I think would be Kriyas. Those are very specific movements that the Shakti is giving into you from, I think, a devotional or almost from I get the word Sanskriti reference point. This would be a Kriya. What I think Brooke is talking about, and what I'm talking about, is you consciously clearing the table of your inner body, consciously just clearing that table and letting Shakti use that table as a platform for movement through you. So there is a purposeful, conscious agreement, almost beforehand.
But that is how the mantras are for me during healing. It is. I am not doing the movements, but I am conscious that I'm doing them.
Well, so you may be experiencing a level of streaming as well.
Okay.
Now, this is
that's good to know the difference, because okay.
One does you without your permission.
Okay.
The other one does you with your permission and agreement.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brooke? Did you have something you want to add?
As a way to move in, so you're inviting in, and it's you know what I mean? So this is with your permission as a way or an invitation to come. Whereas when you're inside of healing and you're moving with the mantra and hands are moving and things are being a little different. It's almost like it's past that at a point. She's already there.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay.
This is just another way to allow for the ego to move out and to begin to just, embody it in that way. There's so many levels of practice going on. I can, from the ego work to surrender to devotion, often that type of practice. It's a practice for me so far. So it's like an exercise. Wouldn't you say, Chrism? Like an exercise?
We're definitely using it as an exercise with you as a practice. But I also see healing opportunities with this as well. And I also see when Manisha brought it up as a dance, I see it as being a form of a healing type of intentional movement as well. So I think there's great application for this in a therapeutic venue. Go ahead.
They did do in the temples, and that was a big part of it. There was dance for the purpose of healing.
Well, when I first had you do some temple dancing, Brooke, that's the first thing that came to me. When I saw you do your temple dancing, I knew that you had done that before. And I knew that you weren't planning it out. You weren't you didn't come to the ashram choreographing things. It just flowed through you. And so I think that if anybody were able to observe Brooke's temple dancing, they would know exactly that this is an ancient form of devotion to the Kundalini.
Yes, and also a form of healing. There's
Yes,
healing.
exactly. Now, for the gentleman that called in, I just wanted to just give him a little bit of information, and for some other people as well. That the Kundalini is the inner divine that is dormant in 95% of the population. It lies dormant at the base of the spine, within the last three vertebrae of the spine, and within certain levels of stimulation and certain levels of spiritual practice and recognition and karma, a person can have this divine part of themselves awakened and begin to transform the five bodies of human expression: the physical being, the mental being, the emotional being, the psychological being, and the spiritual being. Transform those five expressions into a semi-divine individual that is following a semi-divine path. And you can have reference point by just looking at some of the Catholic Christian saints or the Hindu saints, such as Ramakrishna, such as Sri Aurobindo, such as Yogananda, or if you go into the Christian areas, you can look at Saint Francis of Assisi. I'm going to put someone in. Let's see. Yeah, the Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint John of the Cross, Saint Teresa of Avila. And if you look at some of the Buddhist areas, you're looking at Padmasambhava, and I don't have a lot of the Buddhist saints right off the top of my head. I think Thich Nhat Hanh would have been a Buddhist saint. But yeah, some of the strong Buddhist practitioners throughout the centuries, in addition to and many of the shamanic peoples have extremely powerful individuals helping them and guiding them, and so Shakti does have her foot in this world. It's just in the Western technological environment where that is a little more challenged. And so, sir, Kundalini is that force of the divine that is at the base of the spine, waiting for a person to have a karmic scenario open to activating it. So there we have it. I'm being assaulted by a dinosaur German Shepherd right now as we speak. Anyway, so well, I'd like to thank you both Elizabeth and Brooke, for coming on the program, and I'm going to ask you, Elizabeth, and Brooke, I'm going to put you in the blue just so you know. Thank you, my dear.
Go for it.
And I'm going to ask you if Lorania has anything that she would like to add off the top of your head.
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Nope.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to put you in the blue, and I'm going to ask Brooke. Brooke, do you have anything that your Shakti would like to add to this program?
No, thank you, Chrism.
Okay. Very good. All right. And I have another person that looks like they may have called in, and I'm going to bring them onto the show. Hello, 952-303. Are you there?
I am. It's Rosemary.
Hey, Rosemary, how the heck are you?
I'm listening.
Okay.
You.
Do you have any questions or comments that you would like to make with regards to this? I know that from a Christian, a Catholic Christian standpoint, there are very specific movements that may be associated with the indwelling spirit. Have you experienced anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you the closest that I could say about. But let me say about Teresa of Avila, it's almost I don't know that part about if there was that would almost be like a dance. But the people in the Catholic religion, it was mostly those who were spending a lot of time in prayer and meditation. And so they weren't doing that many physical, except working in the fields and doing their work, in silence. And the funny part is that she would rise up from the community prayer, and this is well known in a little chuckle. The sisters didn't know what was going on and just kept pulling at her feet to sit her down in the pew and sit still here now and pray with us. So she asked the Lord not to give her anything special. She didn't want anything special like that. I don't think he listened. But but I think Francis of Assisi, just who he was out in the forest, in his, there's something about that comes to mind. I don't have any specifics. I was thinking in my own life, I've mentioned here already a couple times about the gathering the things for the Christmas tree. It was like a special dance for me of preparing for myself in my living room the beautiful tree and all that was speaking to me. And when I was at the places that I shop on those couple afternoons, it was a different experience, and I knew all of that desire and energy and the effectiveness of what I was doing. I knew what the source was, and it's very touching, and that's what I can see.
Well, thank you, my dear. Yeah. Now, I remember I gave you the instruction to sleep under the Christmas tree, you and a bunch of other Kundalini people, because you are the true gifts to this world. Are you still doing it?
I do once in a while. I sleep in my bed. It's a hard floor, and I had to figure out, because it's my house here, as Chrism knows, is a lot of windows, so it was much colder here. I wasn't expecting that, but I do. And what the other part I did was put a mirror there at the foot of the tree, and when I go by, I make sure I'm seeing myself and smiling and acknowledging. Yes, I am a gift.
That's a great idea. Wow. Yes. Well, I want anybody else who is party of that instruction to put a little mirror under their tree so that they can see themselves as they walk by. Excellent idea, Rosemary. Thank you. And I will put you into the blue, the Shiva blue, sacred male blue. And if anybody else has a question, now whether you're listening on in the chat room, or you're listening on your computer or on your telephone, your smartphone, feel free to call in. The number is 347-934-0026. 347-934-0026. And I'm going to go ahead and continue with this. This is all within the radiance topic that we were talking about. Radiance, Kundalini radiance is Kundalini consciousness. Kundalini consciousness is the expression of divine fields of energy through the mundane physical body. So we have Brooke and Manisha and Elizabeth talking about different movements. We have, and I'll get to your question, Alana Speaker. I just want you to know, but these movements are all being compelled from a divine source. This divine source is beginning to initiate specific levels of transformation for more of its conscious expression through these individuals than they normally would have had without, the Kundalini there. Just like, your next door neighbor or the person at the gas pump or somebody at the market or the store or at school or wherever. And so in a very, very specific way that the Kundalini knows to produce within the individual. And you got to remember that everybody has different karma. Everybody has a different divine blueprint that the Kundalini is following within them, because everybody has different karma. And through that divine blueprint, very specific levels of communication through movement are being given within the understanding of divine radiance. And Atlantis Seeker has a question for Brooke, and so I'm going to bring Brooke back on the line here. Brooke, are you there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Atlantis Seeker, she's asking you this. She said, Brooke, do you experience a lot of joint crackings or feelings of tension release when you do those movements?
I haven't actually experienced that. No, can't say that I do. It's not ringing any memory. I have that all the time anyway, so it's kind of hard. I'm a hard one to ask.
What kind of physical symptoms do you experience when you're moving? When the Shakti is moving your body?
Oh, it's real fluid. It's very graceful, I feel. The primary thing that I feel is the top of my head is sort of, it's almost like there's a pole going through the top of my head, and I can't move the head really from right to left. And it's very, very strong. It feels like my head is going into a light socket, like you're just hooking it up. That's the biggest thing that I feel physically. I'm sure there are a number of other things, but I can't really think of anything else.
And Manisha is writing, and she says it is like one flow. So that's what Manisha's experience with it is.
Yeah, and I have a similar feeling that I can relate to. Yeah, but it's interesting about the cracking. I wonder what that's about, whether she's feeling that, what that could be.
Can we expose some more of your symptoms?
Me?
Yes.
Sure.
Don't you feel like you have electric shocks going through your knees and your legs a lot of the time?
Oh, right. Yeah. And the other one that I have is when I'm waiting for my next command from my Shakti, I feel the energy coming in the heart and the entire torso and heart part of the body. It's like hooking. It's like if you put your body at that attention, there's a certain posture that I can adopt, and it will hook up, and I will feel the energy coming in. But if it's one little chin movement off, or if my back isn't completely arched in a certain way, I don't feel it. It's a very specific posture, and it's when I move into that, I begin to feel these pulsating. They're like I'm being shot, or like electricity coming into the body. That's what remember that.
So do you have to have your back? Is it hyper arched or just slightly arched?
Not hyper arched, slightly arched. Chin is slightly up, sort of like. And when you look at it, it's a very respectful. Yes, it's a very regal type. And that's just the way it works. It's not anything that I made up. It's the way the energy comes into the body. It's not something that, I just drummed up. It is the way I perceive and receive it. So, yeah, the back is arched, the chin is up, the hands are out, the palms are up, facing.
Atlantis Seeker writes, there's a woman with a Kundalini blog who has those, and I guess she's referring to the
crack.
The crack. Yeah. Manisha says I might be put in certain positions for a while, and I can't move, and then suddenly I move again. Those are Kriyas, Manisha.
That sounds like Kriyas.
That's far more of a Kriya type of scenario there. But yeah, well, thank you, Brooke. Thank you for coming back on. And if anybody has a question for Brooke Robertson or Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez or Rosemary Goliath or myself, please feel free to ask it there on the chat room, or if you feel like calling in 347-934-0026 and ask away, and I will put them on the line so that you can get a direct response from these people. So Anything you want to add to that, Brooke? Tell them about the electric shocks in the leg. What's going on with that?
That's I've had for a few years now. That's different than what I was explaining earlier. That's I can be anywhere. I can be laying down. I can be inside of a devotion where it feels like the energy is going in at the knees and exploding and then shocking the whole body. And at the end of that, sometimes there's an emotional release after that where there's a lot of just material that comes up, and you could find yourself crying or just releasing some stuff. Other times there isn't that, and it's just an exhaustion feeling. I'm just drained. It feels like I've been electrically just zapped. I'm not sure what it is yet. I don't really know what that is, but it comes in at the knees and just shocks the body, the whole body. And usually I'll need to lay down and recover.
How much downtime? How much downtime have you been experiencing lately with regards to Kundalini?
Downtime?
Yeah, I mean, how long do you sleep at night, and how exhausted do you get, say, after, we do a devotional set and things like that? Do you have to lay down and recoup?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Bedtime's around 7. No, I'm kidding. Some nights, yeah, there's a lot of sleeping. A lot of mini naps. Let's give a greater level of understanding for the audience about how deep your sequestration is. No TV, very little radio, very little outside activity. I mean, you don't go to the movies, you don't go out dancing. You might go out to eat every now and again. You walk your dog twice a day, and you do your Kundalini. That's about it, isn't it? Yeah, that's about it.
Maybe some grocery shopping once a week.
Mhm. If anyone's interested, I'm just kidding.
And this is, I mean, think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Think about what your life is like right now, and whether you have a family, whether what kind of work you're doing. Brooke is not allowed to work. She is not allowed to entertain herself, except I think she gets to do some YouTubes if she's allowed. She doesn't get to go out at night very much. She does, she gets basically to eat, sleep, and do Kundalini, and that is it, folks. Think about that. How's that working for you, bro?
It's good. I don't have any other interests anyway. That's what another thing that happens within the activation phase is you're pushed to do these things. You're compelled. It's not really that I'm not allowed. No one's holding my hand, but it is that in a way. It really is. But you're compelled to.
And I think you're psychologically changed. I think you're psychologically changed to kind of not want to do those things.
You can't do those things anymore.
Yeah.
It's not where you need to be putting the emphasis.
Exactly. I want to thank you once again, Brooke, for coming on and answering these questions. Okay, all right. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is Kundalini Radiance that we're talking about right now. Radiance, once again, is the consciousness of the divine infusing the physical mechanism, and as that consciousness, that divine consciousness comes through the physical body, it comes through as a substantial, tangible, energetic force. Like a tactile laser that is filled with emotions, with wisdom, with teaching, with healing. It's this compact and yet extremely vibrant, broad, interactive field of energy that comes omnidirectionally off of a Kundalini activated or awakened individual. And this is what we're moving through every day, 24/7. This is what Brooke and Elizabeth and Rosemary, myself, and other people listening here, Katie Paulson and Galarno and Emma Travis and Michelle Ranger, these people, a lot of people have this going on all the time. Mary Jean, Atlanta Seeker. These are the people that have this going on all the time in various ways. It's not all going to be like Brooke. It's not all going to be like Elizabeth or Rosemary, Chrism or Manisha or anybody. It's going to be the blueprint that the divine is following within those individuals. But there are often a lot of similarities that occur. A lot of similarities. And it's important for people to understand this, for people who are researching the Kundalini, for people that might have an activation or kind of trying to find the right information for themselves. It's not easy to find the right information for people. I mean, a lot of teachers will have some sort of a kind of motivation. A lot of them charge a lot of money just to hear the teaching. A lot of them want notoriety. A lot of them want to be the only right way. It's hard to find. And a lot of people just want to just confuse the issue and maybe insert their own fear paradigm like a lot of people like to do. And so, this confuses the truth on the internet. And yet, if you have that spark of Kundalini causing you to do that research, she will respond to the truth when you find it, and she will direct you to the source of that truth in order to learn very specific teachings that will allow you to have a stronger level of transformation from your own Kundalini at the base of your spine throughout your entire being. You got to remember what Brooke said, when she gets the electricity in the, hang on a second. And Nora, come on. No, you can't be up here. You can't be up here. I'm trying to do the show. I'm trying to do the show here. Dinosaur dog. All right. She gets the energy straight up through the knees, and yet it pervades the entire body. The radiance may start at 1 point or 2 points on the body, but it will radiate throughout the entire body. And she, and when she's doing the streaming movement, she described a pole in her head or the fontanelle coming, being stimulated by a very specific source to the point where she can't, move her head right or left. Well, that also permeates the entire being. It doesn't mean that you can't move your wrist on your arm right or left. It just means that the point of contact, for the streaming movement being in the head, that point of contact is so strong that the muscles in the head tense up, and in the neck they tense up, and you can't really move beyond that tension. And the whole muscular tension thing is really a whole new program that I don't have time for in this program. But it's a very, very tactile thing, but it's tactility on a subtle level. It's subtle tactility until it grows stronger and stronger and stronger with you, and you start having kriyas like Manisha described, where she says, I might be put in certain positions for a while and I can't move, and then suddenly I can move again. And these would be more of a kriya nature, where you're put into very specific, often yoga-like positions against your will. And if you resist, it can be painful. But if you don't resist, it lasts for a certain while. The energetics are changed because of the position in the body, and the person is then again freed up to move as they desire. And so what we're talking about right now is kind of a purposeful, conscious agreement to let the Kundalini move through your body in a streaming format. kind of like what I mentioned earlier today in the program when I said I'm streaming this, she is choosing the words that come through me. She even chose this topic today. I did not choose this topic of radiance. I don't have a script. Okay. So the same way that I'm streaming concepts and words, Brooke is streaming movement and energy with the body. And I believe Manisha is also doing that as well. So this is, this is a fairly big deal. This is a very, very big deal. I mean, and Manisha says, this is a great show. Betsy says, thank you. And I want to say you're welcome. But I really want to say thank you to Brooke Robertson and to Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and to Rosemary Goliath and to Alana Seeker for asking such excellent questions, and Manisha, to you. This show is about all of you who have contributed to this. And so thank you very much, everybody. We have about 20 minutes left. And so I would like to give some contact details. If you want to contact me privately, you can contact me at Chris Mitchell on Facebook. And it's a picture of some old guy with glasses looking at you. He's got a beard. Looks kind of like Santa Claus's younger brother. You can go to Chrism.Kundalini on the YouTube network. You can go to, like I said, the Facebook page, Chris Mitchell or Chrism Kundalini on the Facebook. You can go to Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 on the Yahoo network. You can go to Kundalini Awakening ! Both on the Facebook network and that thing that Google has, Google Plus networks, I guess is what it's called. You can contact me privately at kfireforall, KFIREFORALL at yahoo.com, and you can also privately contact me on any of those networks that have been stated. And don't stop your research. Don't stop your application. Those of you who are listening, make room for the Shakti to move you. Remember what we're talking about. This is not an outside in. This is an inside out force. And remember, it would never, ever, ever, ever have you hurt yourself or hurt anybody else. It would never, ever, ever have you hurt an animal or an insect or somebody else's property. Remember that. Remember that within the understanding of Kundalini, it is divine. It is of the divine natures. And these divine natures are based in love and respect and kindness and consideration and tolerance and patience and honesty and truth, compassion, sympathy, healing, service. These are the qualities that the Kundalini will come through. These and more. I'm only listing a few of the qualities. Discernment is also there. Self-discipline is also there. Willing to allow yourself to be changed, like self-transformation. Willing to give yourself completely into a total modality of surrender, like Brooke is being asked to do, and Rosemary and Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez are all being asked to go into a completely total specific mode of surrender, not only to the Kundalini, but also to their teacher in many respects, who is himself or herself surrendered to the Kundalini. So it all goes back to the Kundalini. It's just when you have a corporeal, a physical teacher, that pushes ego buttons that the non-corporeal Kundalini, it pushes different buttons. And so that's why she gives you a teacher. Sometimes you need to hear that you're operating way too much from an egotistic standpoint. Sometimes you need to hear that from a physical being, not only because it may be true, it probably is true, but also because to hear it from another human being presses and conditions the ego in different ways. Typically, if somebody came up and said, "Hey, you're not walking the right way. You gotta walk this way over here, not that way. You're walking the wrong way." Your ego is going to get that middle finger ready. Not that any of us would know anything about that, but you know, for some people that might occur. And so there's a very, very specific level of stimulation to the ego by a physical teacher that isn't as accessible within just the energetic or the spiritual consciousness format. Don't get me wrong; she can do this in the dream state too, but you know, she has teachers on this world, and that is important, or she wouldn't have them. And so you've got to pay attention to them. You've got to honor them, and you've got to pay attention, you know, to really understand that Shakti herself has given you to a very specific flesh teacher, whoever that may be, and that you do need to pay attention to what they say and be in levels of you know, we'll just leave it at that. Be in levels of surrender and real. Make it real. Don't make it fake. Don't think that you can put one over on the Shakti Kundalini and say that you're paying attention to someone when you're truly not. Or say a surrender, that, oh, I surrender to this or that, when you really don't. Just because you say it and you know the words come out of your mouth doesn't mean that you're not just giving lip service to the Kundalini. You don't want to give lip service to the Kundalini. If the Kundalini has you say a mantra like, oh, I give myself to my teacher, my Kundalini, I give control of myself to my teacher, I give, you know, this, and that, and you go through this entire long mantra and then don't really mean it or don't demonstrate that, you're basically just lying to the Kundalini. This is why there is a necessity for ego transition and ego refinement within that transition. Don't think it's like Santa Claus. He knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're bad or good, right? So this is a real deal because the Kundalini is in you already. It's been in you since birth. It knows what you're thinking. It knows whether you're truthful or not. So be truthful, be honest, be respectful to your Kundalini. Do it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't lie to this divine force within you. If you make that agreement to surrender yourself to the Kundalini or to the Kundalini teacher that she's given you to, then you do it. And you do it truthfully, deeply, honestly, and for as long as the words she has you say command you to do it for. Very important. Very important. All right, everybody. I just want to thank you and thank you all for joining me. Thank you for people in the archives joining us. This is December 28th, 2016, 4:43 p.m. North American continent, planet Earth, soul system in the Milky Way galaxy. And I would like to thank everybody for joining us. And may you have a blessed, happy New Year. May the coming New Year be full of love and beauty and kindness and blessings and Kundalini infusion for you. And remember, Kundalini is with us through all of our happiness and all of our sadness and all of our challenges. And if this next year offers you challenge, you just go straight to your Kundalini and ask her how you should deal with it. And she will give you that assistance. And I want to thank you all for joining this program. And I will go ahead and end it a little bit earlier, about 15 minutes from the end, and I will end it at that time. If you do wish to donate to the teachings that I give, you can go to Ascension-Kundalini at blogspot.com, or you can go to KAS1UK.com, or you can go to what's that other one? Chrism Kundalini at blogspot.com. And there's a PayPal donate button. You can donate any amount. Is gratefully appreciated, and will help this information to come into a wider venue. I would like to thank Rosemary and Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and Amelia Santara and many of the other people that have come together and have helped make seminars all over this world. And to help to bring this information into the populations. I would like to thank all of you for that, and all of you that I just mentioned. And I'd like to thank those of you that trust me as your teacher and take the information that I give to you seriously and work with it. I'd like to thank you for placing your trust in the Kundalini and in the Kundalini within me as a teaching vector for your level of enlightenment to increase. And it's an honor and it's a blessing. Thank you, everyone.